you, Rochester. Thank you. And Representative Tina Liebling, thank you so much for that introduction. You said it all. What this campaign is about is not just electing a president. Yeah, that's pretty important. But there's something that is more important. And as Tina just said, it is about transforming America. It is about thinking big and the kind of country we want to become. It is understanding something that the media will not tell you or talk about much, is that in the last 30 years, and as Tina just said, it is about transforming redistribution of wealth. Problem is that redistribution has gone in the wrong direction. Yes, thank you, President Obama, we are better off today than we were 7 years ago, that's for sure. You know, it's amazing to me that our Republican friends suffer from a very, very serious illness, which seems to be all pervasive among Republicans, and that is short-term amnesia. How they could go forward with a straight face and talk about the problems we have today while ignoring what world Bush left us in when he left office. So we are going to make sure that our Republican friends do not forget that when President Bush left office, we were losing 800,000 jobs a month. Unbelievable. Our deficit was a record-breaking $1.4 trillion. Oh, and by the way, the world's financial system was on the verge of collapse. Other than that, we were doing really good. So to hear Republicans talk about, where we are today without putting it into that context is somewhat of an outrage. But here is another truth. Yes, we are better today than we were 7 years ago. But the reality is that for the last 30 years, under Republican leadership, under Democratic leadership, the middle class of this country has been shrinking, and almost all new income and wealth has been going to the top 1%. Now, the reason I think our campaign has been doing so well and why we're bringing out huge crowds, we just came from Texas. We had 10,000 people out in Austin. We had 8,000 people out in Dallas, and this is a pretty good turnout tonight. Thank you very much, Rochester. And the reason is that we're doing something very unusual. We're talking truth to the American people. And sometimes, truth is not pleasant. It's like you go to the doctor and you're not feeling well. Even if the news is bad, you got to know what's going on before you can get better. And that's kind of what it is with our country today. We have to face some very unpleasant truths. And let me give you a few. Number one, you are living under, as Tina mentioned, a corrupt campaign finance system which is undermining American democracy. I wish I could describe it in more pleasant terms, but I can't. When you have billionaires and Wall Street and corporate America pouring hundreds and hundreds of millions of dollars into the political process, that is not democracy. That is oligarchy. And together, we are going to stop that oligarchy. You know what democracy is about, and I really do love democracy, is one person, one vote. It is you disagree with me, that's fine. You got a better idea than me, fight for it. That's a beautiful thing. But what democracy is not about is a handful of billionaires buying elections. And I'll tell you something else that democracy is not about. It is not about cowardly Republican governors trying to suppress the vote. You know, I've been in politics for a while. It has never occurred to me to figure out a way to make it harder for people to vote because they might be voting against me. So I say to those Republican governors and legislatures who are trying to make it harder for poor people or old people or people of color to vote, if you are afraid of participating in a free and fair election, get out of politics, get another job. Today in America, we have one of the lowest voter turnout rates. I want to see us revitalize American democracy. I want to see us have one of the highest voter turnout rates. And in my view, we're going to make this very simple. And we're going to tell the Republican governors, either through a constitutional amendment or through legislation, that if somebody is 18 years of age and a citizen of this country, they have the right to vote. End of discussion. Now, I think the reason that our campaign is doing so well across the country is that we are listening to the pain and the needs of ordinary people and not to the needs of billionaire campaign contributors. And that is a real difference. And when we listen to people, what we hear is people coming up to me and saying, Bernie, I can't make it on $9 or $10 an hour. That is a wage that I can't live on, and certainly my family cannot live on. Truth is that the federal minimum wage of $7.25 an hour is a starvation wage. The truth is that millions of people in this country are working 40 or 50 hours a week, and they are still not earning enough money to take care of their families. Truth is that people working full-time sometimes end up at the emergency food shelf because they need food, despite their 40 or 50 hours of work to take care of their families. And that is why, in this country, together, we're going to raise the minimum wage to a living wage, $15 an hour. Now, what this campaign is about, and it's not easy, is trying to force discussion on issues that Congress chooses not to talk about and media chooses not to talk about. Reality, but it's reality that is kind of swept under the rug. Let me give you another example of that. All over this country, in Minnesota, Vermont, all over this country, you have senior citizens and disabled veterans who are trying to get by on $11,000, $12,000 a year Social Security. You know what? Nobody can get by on $11,000 or $12,000 a year Social Security. And it's important for a moment, it is important for a moment to try to put ourselves into the life of somebody who is 80, 90 years of age, needs health care, needs prescription drugs, needs to keep their home warm in the winter, needs decent food, and they can't do it on $12,000 a year. Now, many Republicans are busy running all over this country. They want to cut Social Security. Well, I've got bad news for them. We are not going to cut Social Security. We're going to expand Social Security. You know, you measure the greatness of a country not by the number of millionaires and billionaires it has, but by how it treats the weakest and most vulnerable amongst us. We will not turn our backs on our parents and our grandparents and on disabled veterans. We will stand with them. So we are listening to workers, we are listening to seniors, but we are also listening to young people. And what young people are telling me is, Bernie, why does it have to be that I end up $50,000, $100,000 in debt for what crime? Because I wanted to get a higher education? That makes no sense. So what this campaign is about is asking people to go beyond the status quo. Don't think small. Ask yourself a simple question. What kind of world do we live in? What kind of craziness exists when we are severely punishing millions of people for what crime? The crime of trying to get a good education. That is nuts, and we're going to change that. And this campaign is listening to women. And what the women are saying is, why does it happen that when we go to work and we're working alongside of some guy doing the same job, why are we getting 79 cents on the dollar compared to that guy? And the answer, in my view, is that what we are looking at is nothing more than old-fashioned sexism, and together we're going to change that. And this campaign is listening to the African American community. And they are asking, how does it happen in this country, the wealthiest country in the history of the world, how does it happen that we have more people in jail than any other country on earth? China, 4 times our size, has fewer people in jail than we do. How does that happen?